Hi there, Chris from Stone Age Gamer here. Welcome back to the gratuitous Rainbow Spectrum, and welcome back to 16-Bit Brawl, a show where we compare two Super Nintendo and Genesis games to see which one comes out on top. Today we're talking about the Blue Bomber himself, Mega Man. We've got Mega Man the Wily Wars for Sega Genesis and Mega Man 7 for Super Nintendo, the only two mainline action original recipe Mega Man games to release on those 16-bit systems. No, we're not talking about Mega Man X, we're not talking about Mega Man Soccer, we're talking about the original stuff right here. And of these two games, there's quite a lot to unpack, so let's get started.
Mega Man has had quite the career. There's frankly an absurd number of Mega Man games in the world, and that train started back on the Nintendo Entertainment System. During the 8-bit era, Capcom released a whopping 6 games on NES and 5 on Game Boy. That's a lot of Mega Man, but when it came time for 16-bit home consoles, Mega Man went through a bit of a dry spell. Capcom created the spin-off series Mega Man X, which saw 3 entries on Super NES, but the original, classic Mega Man only got one original title, and one rather strange remake. Let's take a look at the contenders. In Nintendo's corner we have Mega Man 7. This game acted as a direct follow-up to Mega Man 6 for NES and did some really cool things in terms of evolving the Mega Man formula with environments that could be affected by certain Robot Master weapons and things like that. It was also the first game in the classic series to feature a more modern art style. And what a style it was! Mega Man 7 is one of the most colorful and well-animated games on the Super NES, but it wasn't without its faults. Making the characters more detailed meant that they also took up more screen real estate, and some longtime fans weren't too keen on that. Still, it's an excellent original game that's loaded with fun Easter eggs like the Robot Museum, creative Robot Masters like Junkman, and a top-tier soundtrack. Over in Sega's corner, we have Mega Man the Wily Wars. This was a 16-bit Super Mario All-Stars style collection of games that included full facelifts for the first 3 NES Mega Man games. Each one was recreated incredibly faithfully in terms of stage layout, but the physics were just a little off, as was the game's overall speed, especially in terms of weapons. Still, even though they weren't necessarily the best ways to play these classics, Mega Man 1 through 3 are among the best action video games ever made, especially at the time of this game's release. Plus, after you beat all 3 games, you get to take on Wily Tower, an all-new set of stages with completely unique Robot Masters, where you get to choose your own weapon loadout from any armaments in the first 3 games. Yes, it's super weird, but it is incredibly cool. Now that we know what we're comparing, let's get down to business. Straight off the bat, neither one of these games is in any way bad-looking, but they both approach things very differently. On one hand, Wily Wars had the NES game's template to adhere to, which limited its scope to a certain degree. Still, they worked within that framework extremely well. This isn't like Ninja Gaiden Trilogy for Super NES, where they just added a few more colors to the existing NES sprites. A lot of this game was completely redrawn, which is wild. The new backgrounds in particular breathe a fantastic amount of life into the NES game's stages, especially in the case of Mega Man 1. But Mega Man 7, say what you will about its gameplay and zoomed-in camera, but that game is undeniably gorgeous. The new Mega Man sprite was a brilliant combination of the original soulless, dead-eyed murder machine from the NES games and his concept art. The character animations were extremely well done, and the stages themselves are positively stunning. This in no way minimizes the excellent, albeit sometimes weird facelift given in Mega Man the Wily Wars, but Mega Man 7 takes this one for sure. Sound is always an interesting category because the Super NES and Genesis handled sound super differently. Sega Genesis sound in particular is very video gamey, so when I finally got a chance to play Wily Wars, as a longtime fan of the classic NES games music, I was super excited to hear what they did with them in this conversion. And for the most part, they did not disappoint. All the songs have been intelligently remade to work well within the Genesis sound capabilities. The work was admirable, and the results are genuinely interesting, but I don't think any of them managed to actually sound better than their source material. As for the new music created for the game, some of it's legitimately great, like the Wily Tower stages themselves. The rest, though, like the menus, not so much. Mega Man 7, on the other hand, has a phenomenal soundtrack top to bottom. just endless killer tunes. The instrument choices were super smart, relying on loud, high-fidelity, video gamey samples instead of trying to go for that electric guitar sound, the X series, or anything else aiming to replicate real instruments. The compositions themselves are top-notch, including some stellar throwback tunes in the Robot Museum and the secret Ghosts and Goblins tune in Shade Man stage. Once again, I mean no disrespect to the work done on Genesis, but this is yet another surefire victory for Super NES. Now this is a very challenging category. On one hand, you have Mega Man 7, which is as sharp as its NES counterparts, but with less room to play in. On the other hand, you have the Wily Wars, which nails the playfield aspect, but somewhat bungles the actual play mechanics. I have played through both of these games to conclusion multiple times, and I genuinely love them both, but I have to give this to Mega Man 7, and here is why. Mega Man 7 feels like a Capcom Mega Man game, and Wily Wars does not, because, well, it isn't. It was farmed out to a third party to develop, and unfortunately, it shows. It's by no means a disaster. We're not talking like the MS-DOS Mega Man games or even the Game Gear one, which admittedly isn't terrible, but if you want to talk about screen cramping messing up a game, regardless, it doesn't feel quite as sharp as these kinds of games are supposed to. Mega Man's shots fire too slowly, the jump physics are off, making certain things, particularly in Mega Man 2, more of a pain than they should be. Meanwhile, Mega Man 7's camera being zoomed in is an issue for nostalgia's sake, but the game is actually designed around the size of this playfield. Mega Man feels like Mega Man, and the game's controls are as tight as ever. It's got a number of creative secrets like Proto Man's shield and the rush armor. I know there are folks out there who think Mega Man 7 is a bad game, but I have never understood it. I think it's great, and what's more, it's better than Wily Wars. Gameplay goes to Mega Man 7. And there we have it, a decisive win for the Super NES in all three categories. The Wily Wars is a genuinely solid game, and if it had taken things a bit further in terms of remaking the original trilogy, this might have turned out differently. But with superior graphics, sound, and gameplay, this one isn't even close. The winner is Mega Man 7.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the battle between the Wily Wars and Mega Man 7. I have decreed that Mega Man 7 is the better game. Honestly, it wasn't a terribly huge surprise. This was not developed by Capcom themselves. This is a weird game, but it is so worth trying. If you've only heard online hatred for Mega Man 7, give it a try yourself. I know it's got some screen cramping issues, but the game's designed really well around it. This game is phenomenal. This is also really stinking good. This gets a lot more flack than I think it deserves, and it's just extraordinarily awesome. It's available now on Nintendo Switch Online. It's available as part of the first Sega Genesis mini console they released. This is a game that you can get now in several different ways, and I recommend giving it a shot. I recommend giving them both a shot. Give all the Mega Mans a shot. Mega Man is great, but Mega Man 7 for this 16-bit Brawl, for my money, that's the champion. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like what you saw here today, please follow, comment, like, subscribe, share, and let me know down in the comments how wrong you think I am. Do you think the Wily Wars is a better game than Mega Man 7? Did you think that there was a better Mega Man comparison to be made in the 16-bit generation? I don't know what else I would compare it to. I'm pretty sure this was the only Mega Man Genesis game, but either way, I love hearing from everybody. Thank you very much for watching. On behalf of all of us here at Stone Age Gamer, keep playing games.